Alright, so I'm going to try and do a quick walkthrough of how to use Codespaces within the VETS website repository to run the front end of va.gov in a Codespace and be able to view it on a public URL with an automated process to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into our GitHub account settings. So in the upper right hand corner of GitHub, you can view your settings right here down towards the bottom. So I've already got that open here, and I'm going to go down into my Codespaces settings within Code Planning and Automation. And once we click in there, you're going to see that there's a section for secrets, and we're going to add a few new secrets in here. So the first secret that we're going to add is the VETS website build content secret. These are all going to be in all caps here, just like this. And then we're going to have this value set to all caps no. And then we have to do repository access, so we want to do VETS website here. And so we'll click on that as the repository that we're going to use. So we have that selected. We're going to add that secret. We're going to add two more secrets. So the next secret we're going to add is going to be mock responses. And this is the location to the mock responses to run a mock server. Instead of VETS API, we're going to have this mock responses path used to spool up this mock server and have the front end talk to that instead of talk to VETS API. That way we can provide any mock responses that we want. We can change those responses. We can have the feature toggle values of any sort that we would like. So there's a section within the documentation on how to set up a mock server and the responses for that. If you don't put a secret in here, if you just don't even put any secret in here for mock responses and don't add one, what will happen is it will use a default path for that, which is the common responses. And what that does is it does only provide a few very basic mock responses, like some feature toggles, the user endpoint. I think the maintenance windows are provided in that. So you can do that, but it's not going to give you a whole lot of functionality. So I'm going to be dealing with the mock form that is built for the Authenticated Experience Design Patterns team. So I'm going to paste in the relative location of where that server file is for the mock server here. So that's what you're going to need to run the mock server there. And then we're going to have that same VETS website as the selected repository for this. And then we're just going to add one more. And that one's going to be entry apps. And if you're familiar with building the front end in a local environment, these are the applications that you want to be available to be used within the code space when you build it, very similar to how you would do it locally. So you can put a comma separated list of values in here. Here I have the mock form AE design patterns application, the profile application, and the authentication application that I want to have running. You can have just one by just passing a nothing with, or no extra comma delineated values in here, or you can have a few in here. Again, if you don't add this secret, if you keep it from being added at all, or you just delete the secret altogether, the code spaces that you spool up and use this automation on will watch all of the applications and build all of the applications, which is going to take a while within your code space. So I would suggest just having the applications running that you want to test or run a user research within code spaces with here. So I'm just going to use mock form AE design patterns, and then again I will do this for selecting VETS website. And that is it for the secrets. So those will be configured and they will be available. If you do have to remove them ever, you can hit the delete button. You can't change them or view them after they've been created because they can be used as secrets and encrypted. These aren't really secrets. These are more configuration keys that we're using. But to use them within Codespaces, the easiest way to do is configure them as secrets per se. But they're not super sensitive or anything like that. It's more just pieces of information we want to have available within each code space when it starts up. So if you need to delete one, what you'll just have to do is just add it all together and then put the new value in for it and things like that. You just can't really edit them once they've been created. You can just delete them and re-add them all together. So that's all you have to do within your account settings for Codespace user secrets. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is actually set up a Codespace. And so to do that, what you'll want to do is go into the repository, and I'm in a specific branch here for my work, but it can be on the main branch or wherever else you have code that you want to run in a Codespace. And then within this code drop down here, there's a local tab that shows you how to, git clone or do whatever you want with this. But then there's also a Codespaces area here where you can create a code space within this particular branch that I'm in, or within main. You can also view any of the other ones that you have running, and you can also delete these code spaces from here as well. So it makes kind of goofy names when they first get created. Musical Doodle is one that I have right now, but once we hit plus here, it's going to open up a new code space that's going to run and allow us to continue our configuration. So we'll just hit the plus button here. That's going to open up a new tab, and you're going to see basically a instance of VS Code, Visual Studio Code, starting up and booting here and pulling in all the files for Vet's website and doing some things behind the scene. So we can let this run here, and while we're at it, what we're going to do is we're going to do one last configuration step within the repo itself. So we've already started our code space, and it's just started building. Before it finishes building, what we want to do is we want to go in here, and we're going to see that this time it created it under the name Stunning Doodle. And to make this a public code space where the automation runs to set up the servers and make everything public for you, you just want to rename this and just have it be va-public and then anything else. It can be stunning-doodle or however you would want it, but it just needs to have this VA public with hyphens in between in the front of it for the code space to pick it up and know that it needs to be a public-facing version of it. Otherwise, the code space will be private, and you won't be able to show it to a research participant with a public URL, or have the the Vet's website run at a public URL instead of like a private port that only you can view. So if we hop back into the VS Code instance here, we'll see that some things popped up. There's a terminal down here that kind of says it's running a post create command. After that, it's going to run a Codespaces start command or a shell script for that, and that'll do some extra things here. To watch what's kind of happening and see this process kind of go, you can hit what it says here to view creation logs. Hit Command or Control plus Shift plus P. And so if we do that, it brings up kind of this command terminal here. And this is optional. You don't have to view the creation logs and watch it happen. But if you do go and hit View, you'll see that it'll kind of filter out to Codespaces View Creation Log up top here. And if I click on that, that's going to bring me up just kind of a separate terminal window here, and that actually is showing you all the things that it's doing. This is very similar to like when a developer starts up and first does like a Yarn installation or installs all the dependencies, so you can see that it's churning through a whole bunch of things down here to build the Vet's website front end right now, and then it's going to start running a few more commands and start up the mock server for you and the development server and set it up publicly. So I'm going to let this run. It's going to be a couple minutes here before it's done, and then I will continue to tell you how to use the code space from there. So we'll just kind of wait for this. Okay, so now we're back, and we've kind of watched some things pull through here. This is the mock API listening here. You can see at port 3000 and kind of running through all the mock responses that we have set up. You can also see a Webpack bundle and compiled successfully, and some things here. It's been about 4.5 minutes since I started this code space and kind of let it run. So it depends on how many apps you're running or how large your app is that you do want to run in this. But for the demo app that I'm running, it took about 4 minutes for us to spool this up all together. And then at the bottom, you can see that making front end port public, making mock API port public, and then setup complete, your servers are running and ports are public. So if you have the configuration as far as the secrets within your GitHub settings correct, you'll see these things down here. Otherwise, it won't know that you want to make things public, and that your code space was also named with that VA public in the front of it. So if you don't see that somewhere in here, it might be a little bit further up here. But it should be at the bottom. But you can see that the display name here is VA Public Stunning Doodle, and it says the Codespace display name starts with a VA Public, and so it is setting it as a public environment. So that's why we set it up right away when we started building this code space, was just to have that name already set so that when it does look at that name, that it knows that it's supposed to be a public application. Otherwise, it's not going to make it public. And what that means is that right now there's a second terminal tab here that's called ports, and if we look at that, there are a couple forwarded ports here. One of them talks about being our testing mock API here. You can kind of see if I drag this out and the responses are put in here. And so that's our mock API right there. And then Webpack is where our front end is running from. And you can see that those have both automatically been set to public visibility. And so now, if we look at the forwarded address here, this is a public URL. And if I click on this or click on this little globe here, that's going to open up and you'll see this little thing saying, hey, this is a development port served by somebody's code space. You know, don't put any credit card information or things like that in here. But once you hit continue, you'll see that the Vets website is up and running. And because you have that mock server set up, and you know the home page isn't probably going to load because you don't have that application set up. You know, I do know that our application runs at /mock form a design pattern, so that's where I'm going to visit my prototype form here. And once I load that in, you can see that I have this little user research study thing here. And I do know that I have a one route in here that lets me get into it. And now I can actually see all the front end that I do have set up for this little user research study and a few green task button, yellow task, and purple task. And I can go into some forms that are set up, like I said, within this application. So that's how you do it to set up a specific application to be public and automated through Codespaces right now. So hopefully that's useful for you. If you have any other questions, there's documentation on this as well that you can view alongside this video that should help you guide you through some of those secrets and other areas that you might want to look at. All right, well, thanks for watching.